death is something that is inevitable. But as inevitable as it is, it's never anything that's easy to deal with, especially when we lose someone that's particularly close to us. Now, we all have lost somebody. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, you've lost somebody that you've been close to, and it has impacted you. Some have described feeling so trapped by their feelings of grief and loss that they themselves feel as though they've died, or rather they wish they had. So how do you overcome this feeling? How do you deal with it? How do you bounce back from grief? Today we're hoping that we can discuss this. And broadcasting live from the ZTN studios in Harare, Zimbabwe, you are watching Thriving Heals. Thank you so much for joining us. Please make sure you are part of our discussion today by commenting in the comments section. That's the Facebook page, which is the Zimpapers TV Network Facebook page, or on Twitter at ZTN News. Now, of course, I have already told you that our topic today is looking at grief. We are discussing bereavement, finding the road back home. And joining me to discuss this, I have the Commissioner of the Human Rights Commission, Apostle Petunia Chiriseri, and Brand Manager and Mentor Odlin Kawa. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome,
Candice.
And I hope that we will be able to discuss this without opening old wounds. But we do want to give somebody light, somebody who's in this particular predicament now and they need some kind of inspiration. Hopefully we can help them through it. Now, to just start us off, what words would you attach to grief? What words would you attach to loss that kind of give insight into how it has affected you personally? Apostle Petunia, let me start with you.
I think I would start by saying that bereavement or grief, oh, by the way, greetings everybody. Bereavement or grief is more than just the loss of a loved one. It's more than just loss through death. I think any loss causes some kind of sadness, whether it's a loss of a life or of a job or of your health. That sense of loss on the inside causes the pain. And so in one word, I would say bereavement or grief is pain. The pain of loss. Yeah.
Odlin?
I should say grieving is, it comes natural. It's a natural way of handling a loss, whatever loss. And we grieve differently, and we should never compare our grieving, because the way I take a loss is different from how Commissioner takes a loss, and because we have different issues on our own, which we do things, and I think it's different from each other person.
Right, right. Now, as you mentioned, you know, we deal with it differently, regardless of what kind of loss it is. But you'll find a lot of people in their grieving, in their moments of sadness, in their pain, have also expressed feeling guilty. Some will feel guilty because they have questions. Why couldn't it have been me? Why was it this person? Or I didn't do enough. I could have done more. All these different things go through their minds. Now, you both have lost people very close to you. What were some of the first thoughts that you had when you found out the news? Apostle Petunia, again, I'll start with you.
Candy, I don't know whether I'd call it a thought. It's more, I think, just what happens in you. Shock, of course. You know, sense of numbness and maybe even denial. Like just feeling like it can't be happening. And yet with your other five senses, yes, you know it's happened.
Right.
So from there you then, well, I went through, I guess, lots of turmoil, I would say. Turmoil on the inside, you know, between my spirit, my soul, my body.
Right.
Literally, because You may not know, Candy, but I lost my husband to a fatal accident.
Yes.
And we were in the car together.
Yes.
So I was also quite fatally
You were
injured.
badly injured, yeah.
Yes,
severely.
I had multiple severe injuries. So, so I would say I've heard people say I'm a double. I had a double portion of everything, like physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain, psychological pain, just trauma. Just, I guess that's what they call trauma.
Yes, yes.
Just like highly traumatized. But I guess you're going to ask me later, how did I cope?
Yes,
if
I
I
am.
coped. But okay,
I am
so
going to
I'll
take
stop
it
there.
there. I am going to take it there. And I do actually want to
Yeah.
come back to that battle that you've described.
Yeah.
But Odlin, let me just give you a chance to answer the same question as well before we get to that.
I should say, I agree with the Commissioner here that numbness happens to you when you get to hear of loss of somebody, especially close to you. You get the news, everything changes. Even the hearing, there are sounds that come to your ears. Even your mouth, you can't feel and taste, you can't taste any food. You don't feel hungry. There's some numbness in you, in every part of your body. And you are trying to think, the challenge is we are still to understand what death is. So when it strikes you, you start thinking, this person will not talk to me. This person is gone.
Right.
That's the end, especially if it's an accident. Because I also lost my husband in a car accident. There were 5 in the same car, we all died. And you get a call. A few hours ago, you were chatting, you said goodbye to them as they drove off.
Right.
Next thing, someone is gone. You have questions in your mind. What happened? What should we have done to avoid this? Then how did they die? Did they speak to somebody? Was it instant? Did they? You have a lot of questions which nobody can give you the answer, especially if everyone in the car perished.
Right.
They can't give you.
Right.
You only get the closure, I think, when you get the answers.
Right, right. Apostle Petrina, let's come back to that turmoil that you described. You described a lot of, apart from your physical pain, you were in a lot of physical pain, but you also had this emotional, mental, spiritual struggle that was going on within you. Could you just talk us maybe through the early days and the early stages of that turmoil and how it made you feel?
Before I answer your question, Candy, I just want to pick on what my sister Delin said here. Someone once said that numbness is God's anesthetic. I thought I liked that. It's like at that point you really need an anesthetic where your brain just can't connect with everything else around you. For me, I was very conscious all the time, and I was aware he's gone, but I still kept saying in my mind, what?
It can't be.
What? You know, I kept saying, you know, my brain just kept saying, what? You know, like, it can't be. But I knew it was. And so I guess that's some denial going on in there, but I knew I couldn't deny it because I guess I was the first person of all the people that knew him to know. And so the turmoil on the inside, I guess, was with your spirit man deep down. You have known God, and you've known God to be a good God. You've known God to have always been there for you, to have protected you, to have provided for you. As for us as a family, we have gone through so many tests, like near-death experiences, through fire attacks, literally. And so I know how God protected us. Not once, not twice. In fact, as I prepared for this, I realized it was like 6 times. You know, very near-death experiences, but God would just protect us very miraculously. Another story for another day. So deep down in my spirit, man, I know God is a good God. but I know that an accident is a terrible thing.
Mm.
And so the first question, of course, you have is, in my spirit man, I know this is the devil.
Right.
Because God is a giver of all good gifts, you know, but at the same time, I also am aware that God is omnipresent.
Mm.
So it means he was there.
Mm.
For me, that started to calm me
Right.
down.
Right.
So if God was there, and then of course the fact that I'm alive tells me that God was there. Otherwise, I should not have been alive, because I was still conscious when the car rolled 3 times and we were hitting, you know, the roof of the car was hitting onto our heads.
Mm.
And by the way, that's what took him home. And I must have lost consciousness after the 3rd rolling, you know. So the turmoil between what you know in your spirit man and the questions, I guess, like Delin said, that are going on in your mind, but which for me, I knew I could never question God.
Mm.
I mean, I know God is sovereign. So I couldn't go there, and I told myself, I can't, I'm not.
Right.
I just so reverence you, God. I can't. But why?
Mm. Mm.
You know, but I won't ask why. Literally, I was having these conversations with God, but amidst the pain, and then, you know, like I'm saying, the emotional pain, I think, of separation, I think is the biggest emotion. Just the sense of loss, the finality.
Mm.
Death is so final.
Right.
But, okay, I keep wanting to go to probably your next question. How did you
It's okay.
cope?
It's a process.
Is it
It's a process. We're going to talk through this.
Yeah,
We're
that's
going to
right.
talk through it.
Actually, that's it. You took the words out of my mouth. It's grieving is a process. It's not an event.
Right.
You know, you sometimes think you are experiencing this peace. For you asked how I was feeling through with this turmoil all around me. For me, I think the prayer deposits of the family and the prayer deposits that had been made, and I knew also deep down that the saints must be praying, because, Candy, it felt like literally I was in cotton wool.
Really.
That's a feeling. I can't put it into words, into better words than that. I just felt warm, like sheltered, like just in there, like in just some padding.
Right. Cushioned.
Amidst what was going on internally. So, yeah, but the biggest, I think, was my mind. The biggest trauma
Was in your.
was in my mind. Not so much in my spirit man, because I guess God had prepared me, as I will share later. But in my mind, I just kept saying, how can that be? Like, what? Like, yeah.
Okay. Adeline, can you relate?
Yes, I do, very much. With me, then I would, when it happened, after all the burials, and not only for my husband, but even for my mom and my best friend, I would then prepare, like I've seen a movie on TV, and say, okay, when he comes, I'm going to tell him this is what happened on TV.
Right.
If there is an event where we're going, I would say, oh, I'll go with my friend. I'll phone her and we go.
Right.
Then later on it comes back, he's gone. So I can't tell
You
him
can't
this story.
do this.
She's gone. I can't go with her. Then it comes back. You start crying. It's back. It reminds you that he's gone. She's gone. You won't be able to speak to them. Then it's a process. It continues. As you prepare, you go back, the things you were doing together, you find out they're no longer there. Worse now in the community, when you go out there, especially at church, when they start saying Widows Association,
Right.
go this side.
The reality sinks in.
Yes, on you. And if you then want to talk to someone at church, if it's a man, you can't, because the moment you are seen with that man, people now saying she's a widow, she's trying her luck on that man. Whereas you're just looking for comfort, you're looking for someone to speak to.
Right.
And it then reminds you, okay, this happened, so now I'm totally different from what I was before when he was alive. I'm different from when I had my friend. I had support, now I have no one to support me. It keeps, events that happen keeps reminding you of that loss. And the bereavement takes time because of those things. Yes.
And so Apostle Petunia said that, you know, she had questions, but she's like, Lord, I'm not going to question you. Did you question the Lord?
Unfortunately, I did. Most of the questions were like, but why? Especially when I lost my friend. A day before she went to the Lord, she phoned me to say, Odlin, you missed my call yesterday, but you didn't return it. So I just wanted to tell you, I'll not phone you again. The next call you'll receive is that I am gone. And the following day, she was gone.
Oh no.
So I kept asking the Lord, why? Why did I miss that call? Why didn't I return that call? Did I make her go because I made her angry because I didn't attend to her issues? So I kept asking God to an extent that I kept my friend's mobile number in my phone for 4 years. I couldn't delete it because to me she was there. She would come back.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And how did you... That sounds very traumatic, emotionally especially. Considering even the line of the conversation and the events that then took place, how did you start to make peace with that loss?
What I then did is I made sure I would be there for her husband. I would go meet with the husband, talk about her, the things she did for the husband, the things she did for me and my family. I also went to meet with her sisters, and I became the eldest sister. I took her position, so that I also was there for her children. I became the mother for the children, and that really helped me because I was talking to her in her absence to say, Sheila, I'm there for you. I wasn't there on that day, but now I am there. You are not there, but I'm taking over the things you were going to do. Yes. And it helped me because I felt I was repaying that part I didn't do well when she was still with us.
We are talking about bereavement and finding the road back home today. This is Thriving Heals on Zimpaper's TV network. We are taking a short break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, you are watching Thriving Heals on Zimpaper's TV network, and I am joined by Apostle Petunia Chiriseri in the studio, as well as Odlin Kava, and they're sharing with us their stories and their journeys on bereavement. Hopefully they should be able to help somebody out there who is going through the same process. please do make sure you're sharing your comments with us. The Facebook page is the Zim Papers TV Network Facebook page, and on Twitter it's at ZTN News. And of course, we do continue with our discussion. Now, Apostle Petunia, you mentioned that you had back-to-back tragedy. You were dealing with the loss of your husband, and you yourself were battling to keep yourself alive. You had severe injuries, were undergoing several surgeries. But at the same time, you're a mother. And your girls, from my understanding, were also close to their father. How were you feeling, having to deal with your situation, but also having to provide some form of comfort to your girls?
For me, it wasn't just the girls. By the way, our firstborn is a son. He was in the States, and he had to make arrangements to come home ASAP. So it wasn't just my biological family, it was also the church. And because Apostle Charles Chiriseri was the founder of His Presence Ministries International Church, so when I was in the ambulance and I was being driven away from the scene of the accident, I mean, the torture was on two fronts. First, part of me was saying, so here I am, I'm going to get help, and I've left my husband there. That tortured me. That thought was so torturous, like you'd think I didn't know the word. It took my daughter, my eldest daughter, who is also a pastor, Pastor Lisa, to say to me, Mom, you know Daddy wasn't there. I said, what do you mean? I said, but you know his spirit had gone. You know the real man had left him. He was not there at the scene of the accident. You know, it was like I was hearing it for the first time, that
Right.
we are spirits, we have a soul, and we live in a body. And that's the truth that she gave to me. I was still in hospital then, intensive care. It really uplifted me. It took away that, just like a sense of guilt, like, and I'm leaving him there, he's gone, I can't help him, but I'm going to get help. So that was on one front. On the other front, I just said two things. My children, our church, like, how will they deal with it? And you know, that sense of responsibility, I would say, kept me going, because I was actually more concerned about my children and about the church of the living God. Like, how will the church take this? Founder of the church, like. So my thoughts were, I guess, in torture, like preoccupied more by that sense of responsibility that I think it kept me going, but you know, it's delayed grief, they call it. And but for the Holy Spirit, you know, right in there, I had engagements with him, because I kept saying, so how will I tell my children? What about the church? Like, how will they take it? Like, how do I explain this? Like, I felt responsible. I felt responsible in a funny sort of way, because, you know, but you know what? I think the Holy Ghost knew I was totally overwhelmed, and he said to me, say it is well.
Right.
So I responded, I said, no, God, Lord, it is not well. And by that time, you must know, I really couldn't speak. So I was just speaking
In your mind.
in my mind and my spirit man. I said, no, it is not well. So the Holy Spirit responded almost audibly. He said to me, no, I didn't say it is well. I said, say it is well. I said, oh, okay. Until it is well. I said, oh, okay. So from that moment on, all the people that were coming to see me in hospital, or that's the only word I had in my spirit, you know, because I felt sorry for them. Like, I could see the trauma and the shock on their faces each time they'd walk into I had no clue what I looked like.
Right.
But later I was told, and I had an idea. So I could see, and I could see they didn't know what to do. And I think the pastor in me, the shepherd in me, would keep reaching out and say, "It is well," as the Spirit of God had said.
Right.
Although on the inside, I knew I'd had this private conversation, like, God, it is not well. And the Holy Spirit would remind me, I didn't say it is well. I said, say. I said, declare
That
it is well.
Until it's well.
It is well. So
think
to be
that's very
honest, that was
strong.
my Rhema word.
I think that's very, very, very powerful, because at the time really it isn't well.
No,
and you
no.
don't feel it's well, and you don't
No.
believe it will be well
No.
in that particular space. And Odi,
No.
for you, you're also a mother. And having to explain to your children that, I just got this phone call. How quickly did you forget you?
When it happened, my son was in boarding school and I was with my daughter and we were at church. My maid had to follow me to say, Daddy had an accident, so you are wanted home. My daughter was still very young. Even up to now, she can't even recall her dad because she was young. But my son, he got traumatized to an extent that he can't even drive. He thinks cars kill because of that. And this is one thing I forgot to attend to as a mom, to say my children would need counseling because they have lost someone they loved so much. I thought of me and not of my children, because I looked at them and said, they still have me.
Right.
I will attend to them. Then forgot their needs at that moment. But as I was looking at them, I was busy thinking then, how will I pay fees? How will I make sure they have a comfortable life without their dad? How will I fill in the shoes of their father to be there for them? And I then started working on those things soon after. I think it also helped me in my bereavement because I had something to focus on, to make sure that my children are catered for. They don't feel it. They don't feel the absence of their dad. And I think I did well on that part. Although I forgot to look on the other end of that, they also bereaved like me.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And so the emotional aspect of what they needed kind of went unattended to.
Yes, definitely. And the church people were also concerned about me because they thought the loss was for me, and the children, they still had me, and they also forgot about the children.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Did you at any point get any counseling?
The counseling I got was from my church.
Okay.
My pastors from church, they made sure I'm counseled. From the day of the loss, they were with me until they saw that now I could smile. I was getting myself back as a person. Yes.
Apostle Petunia, you, as you've rightly mentioned, you were now thinking, okay, my kids, my church, similar situation. And the apostle in you, the pastor in you, the shepherd in you is thinking, how do I take care of everybody else? Did anyone look at you and say, no, we actually need to now give you some form of therapy?
The hospital, I don't know who arranged it. I don't know that it's my family. Up to today, I have never asked. The hospital sent in psychologists and a psychiatrist. I didn't even know there was a difference. But I'm sure they thought somewhere along the line, maybe something snapped because of the, double tragedy and the double trauma. So I wouldn't regard that as counseling. Well, I don't know, maybe it is a form of counseling, but certainly it wasn't spiritual counseling. But they were in there. They came several times into the hospital bed, I think just to check that I'm actually okay.
Right, right.
But at some point, I think the junior thought I was not.
And how did you receive this?
Candy, I was just a parcel. Literally.
You were a parcel, but your mind was working.
I was just a parcel, when you're injured and everything is being done for you, like you're being bathed, you're being fed, and even then you're feeding through a straw. You can't turn, you can't move, you can't eat, you can't bath, all I could do was think and talk. And just being told now it's, I don't know how many x-rays I went to, now it's time to eat, now it's time to go for x-rays. Now the psychiatrist is here, the psychologist is here, the physiotherapist is here. So I was just guess just there. So I was just answering there. So I don't know what I felt. I don't remember feeling anything. I just remember cooperating and answering every question and just complying with everything I was being told to do, because literally I was helpless.
Right.
Yeah.
Did at any moment with you, did at any time you feel that the people around you were too many people? I just want my space. I just want some space to. Did you ever want alone time, or did you feel like having people around you is what actually would have helped you more?
Well, I didn't have time to process whether it helps me more, but I know I wasn't bothered by having people. It was the medical staff that was bothered, and I'm told there were hordes of people there.
Wow.
And yes, because many people flew in all the way from Harare to Bulawayo, so I think my children had to manage that. So they'd have to come ask me, because they knew I didn't mind.
Right.
If it were according to me, I would have entertained them all.
Right.
I think I'm
right.
just a people person.
Right.
But little knowing that, I don't think I was in a good state. So it was actually the medical staff. When those machines would start going, they'd say, they'd say, no, can they go away, But I wasn't feeling burdened at all.
Right.
No. I guess the shepherding, the call of God in me just was so alive. Yeah, to the extent that even when I was now out of hospital and I was still on this cast, which was from my toes right up to my thigh, the top of my thigh, the first opportunity I could get, I was in church preaching. When you're just born to do this, you just feel like
it's just who you are. It's the
just
most natural thing.
Yeah, so they had to hold me, one person this side and the other person, take me to the pulpit, and I was just holding on to the pulpit. So if I let go of the pulpit, I was going to fall. Right. So I didn't let go of the pulpit, but I was able to preach. And, I felt this sense of fulfillment. And, of course, I felt that by encouraging the saints, I also felt encouraged, because I was carrying the burden. Like, how are they feeling? Like, honestly, how are they even handling this?
Yeah.
So maybe I even traumatized them by by going in my cast. But so to answer your question, no, I never felt overwhelmed by having people. If anything, if it went for the medical staff, I would have entertained them all. No. And if it went for my children. So they'd have to come in and say, Mommy, do you want to see so-and-so? Almost inadvertent, all of them would say yes, so they're the ones that would say no, can't see this one. Yeah, yeah. So they basically try and entertain more or allow more the people that had come like from far.
Okay.
Because some people had come from overseas and so on. So no. I think it's the gifts and callings of God that are without repentance. Even in that crisis, my mindset was just to cater for their needs in a very feeble way. When I look back now, how am I even catering for them? Yeah.
Odeline, how did you feel surrounded by people, surrounded by a lot of activity, people constantly trying to cheer you up?
I think that really helped me, especially when I lost my mom. I got a call that she had been hospitalized, and she was looking for me and my younger sister. Every time, although she couldn't speak clearly, she had to ask for a pen and paper to write.
Right.
Say, please ask my daughters to be here. But I was waiting for my other sister to arrive so that we could go together. When I got there, the nurses just said to me, I'm sorry, your mother tried to wait for you, but she couldn't. And the presence of my mom's sisters and other nieces, he helped me because I had the comfort of the people around me.
Right.
I felt there's someone. Anything that needed to be discussed, my aunts were there for me.
Right.
They would see me crying, they would come to me and say, it's all right, Mama got sick and God wanted her. And the presence of the people helps you move on. Or because the time they leave, it comes back again. You start another mourning on your own. It's another funeral. But as long as you know you have the support, I think you stand strong.
Now, so you've, as we mentioned earlier, you've lost a lot of people that were very close to you. Apostle Petunia, both your parents, a sibling, your husband, Odlin, your husband, your mother, your sibling, your friend. These feelings of grief each time you lost these different people, are they any different? Do they vary, or is it just the same emotion over and over again? Did you feel as though this was different in relation to who this person was to you? Odlin, I'll start with you.
I think it's the difference is the way people die. When my siblings, they got sick, you get to an extent that I think God let them rest because the suffering will be so tough for you and for them. When it's an accident, when it's a night, someone ruptured a nerve and died, like my friend, the pain is different because someone who is sick, you will be going to see them,
Right.
talking to them,
Right.
understanding what they are going through. Unlike someone who just dies and you are told he's gone.
Right.
The pain comes with some questioning to say, how did it happen? How were they feeling? Unlike the person who has been in hospital, you know they've been suffering. So there was a difference. It doesn't matter that he was your husband, she was your mom. It can be a neighbor. The relationship that you have with that person also contributes to your bereavement.
Right.
Because there are certain things that are taken away with that person as they go. Yes.
Apostle Petunia?
I think it's different with every death. Like Delene says, depending on your relationship, but also depending on how it happened. I think she hit the nail on the head. For me, when my brother died, the pain that this was before my husband, the pain that I was left with was the pain of his suffering when he was sick. I still carried that pain. I still was so traumatized by seeing him in so much pain. It took a lot of comfort from my husband, to say, look, we have to release him.
You're right.
He was in pain, so we have to let him go. So then when, within a few months, it was then my husband who used to comfort me, and now I had no one to comfort me. Frustration was, I think, one of the feelings that were uppermost, just the frustration of not having someone to be that close. Yes, there'd be many people around, but never anybody as close as him. Someone who would hold you until you cry yourself to sleep, So now people can be there during the daytime, other times, but when you're sleeping, you're on your own.
Right.
And
Right.
I must say, when I was in hospital, though, I didn't even, only once or twice, I think, did I break down when certain people came to see me. I think I was in too much physical pain,
Right.
like trying just to, I guess, stay alive. I don't remember breaking down, but later, when I was now recovering at the Dabengwa residence, who were my parents, only parents, yeah. That's when I started to feel the frustration of not having someone to share my feelings, my thoughts,
Right.
my fears, my dreams, just, it's like a dead end road, like, wow, he's not coming back,
Yeah.
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 So that wasn't an easy road at all because we were so close.
Right.
In fact, I remember at the funeral feeling like, I don't think I can live on beyond this,
Mm-hmm.
I never really felt like, oh, I should have died, because I know that's suicidal, and I knew I can't go there. But I remember feeling like I can't do life without Charles. Like, how do I do life? How from here do I?
How do I move forward?
How do I move forward? What do I do? Where do I start? Like, how does it happen? And I thank God for saints, people come, they all say they're different things, and I'm sure each one of them heals you in one way or another. But one of the words that stayed with me was just take one day at a time.
Right.
And that's exactly what I did. Like, I knew my life is in the hands of the Lord. My life is in the hands of God. And the release that I got from the pain of frustration that he's not coming back was realizing, also through people's counsel, I guess, as they go in and out, the fact that life belongs to God. Yeah, that the husband may have been mine, but the life was never mine.
Right.
The life
Right.
always belonged to God. So,
Right.
so who am I, to question God?
Now,
So,
we say that we go through, basically it's been bracketed as 5 stages of grief. There are plenty more in between, but the more common pointed out ones will be, of course, the starting one being the denial that you've both identified as having gone through, where you're asking, what, how, then you also have the anger, you have the bargaining, the depression, the acceptance. Now, we've all acknowledged that we don't grieve the same, we don't go through the same processes, not even in the same order. But individually, what stage would you say you struggled with the most? At which point did you kind of feel stuck in your journey? At which point did you say, okay, look, I'm stuck here, I can't move forward? And eventually, how did you move forward? Apostle Petunia.
I think the depression stage, I didn't realize I was in depression, believe it or not, until I went for professional counseling, which is only like 2 months ago. And yet the accident happened 5 years ago. So I actually didn't realize I was in a depression until, my professional counselor, which I found interesting because I'm also supposed to be a professional counselor, but everything goes out through the window.
Yep.
So identified some of the symptoms of depression: loss of appetite, loss of sleep. Even when I was now well enough to be able to take myself to the bathroom and to bath myself, because for the longest time, literally I had to be carried into the bathtub, out of the bathtub. But even when I now had the physical strength to do it, I just didn't have the will. I just didn't want. And I mean, it would be such a big joke at home. Like my daughters would be saying, Mommy, you're not going to refuse to bath today, like you did to those nurses in hospital, So only when the professional counselor was taking me through it, and that's 2 months ago, 1.5 months ago, did I realize, okay, so I was depressed.
Right.
And I didn't know it. All I knew was each time people came, whether it was in hospital or whatever, I'd keep asking, please pray for me. Pray for my appetite.
Right.
Please pray. Nightmare. You're in pain, but you can't moving.
Right.
I just kept ministering. I'd say maybe that's my crutch.
Yeah.
I just kept going.
Sounds right.
I just kept ministering. I just kept pushing. I just kept doing what I knew to do. Just read the word, to pray, to minister. It's quite weird.
Not at all.
But
Not
I
at
was
all.
depressed.
Not at all. That was.
I was made to realize I was in depression.
Right. I think a lot broader area than that, and a lot of people will be picking up on things and saying, "Oh, actually, I think I."
Well, because it took me a lot of on cup of at my house, teaspoon and all cutlery she would use.
And you kept them.
I kept them.
And no one was allowed to use
yes,
them.
I said these are Sheila's. I kept them. I only released them, I think, a year ago.
Right.
It was like she will come back. She's still there. And what helped me, I think, is every time I would think about those who left me the losses, I would cry. Because people tend to say, don't cry, it's not good for your health. But I think crying helps, because after crying you then have this release.
You feel better.
Yes, that at least I've cried out. And I also, talking about it, I think people thought I was crazy in a way, because everywhere I got, I would want to talk about what happened. The more I spoke about it, the more it became real to me that these people are gone. Because the comments from the people also sort of were therapeutic in the way they were communicating with me. I think it really helped, talking to the people and crying it out.
Very briefly, just tell me how these different losses, at the different stages that they happened, how did they impact your life then in their spaces, in the spaces that they happened, and how do they shape your decision making now, Apostle Petunia?
Well, talking about the loss of my brother, he was my older brother, and so I came after him. So that meant I was now fully responsible, because we lost both parents. And so that brought in a feeling of added responsibility. And for my husband, well, it's like a whole world, hey? It's like you've lost a whole world. It's like everything just comes crashing in on you. For me, it was the church. People were used to their apostle. They loved him. I think they probably just tolerated me.
I think you sell yourself short.
But, well, generally people love their pastor. That's the truth, especially if at that time I didn't really used to minister so much, like as in being upfront ministry. I'll be more behind the scenes, right. Discipleship type, follow up and prayer and women's ministry and just admin and so on. But now he was gone, and so I had to be all that. And so I quickly realized the need for the leadership that he had raised. And so I had to quickly adjust and bring them up and tell them, okay, look, things have changed. We find ourselves in a situation where now I have to play Apostle Charles's role. Right. I have to to take the strategic planning button stick, but also just the spiritual direction, the apostolic and prophetic role, which, by the way, he had so well trained me. He had thoroughly trained me, so I didn't struggle.
Right.
I didn't struggle in terms of knowing what to do. I may have struggled in terms of whether I'll be accepted or not. Whether woman leadership will be accepted, but I left that to God. I kept saying, God, you were there. And I kept saying, it may have been an accident here on earth, but I'm sure it wasn't an accident in heaven.
Right. It was planned.
That's another story for another day, where literally when you look back now, you realize, oh, actually God had been forewarning, God had been preparing, but I don't have time for that. So I left that struggle to him, and so I refused to take it. But in terms of having, like I said, a husband, a friend, a father, I think my children and I I think it made us a lot closer. We've always been very close-knit family, but I think it just bonded us like together so much, and they've been such an amazing source of strength. And so much wisdom and support and encouragement. And so I never felt like I had to play the mother and father role, which I know sometimes other widows have to play. Literally, they kicked in even financially. They just all upped their game. And I think I became the baby of the family.
Reverse of roles.
There was a reversal of roles right there, and I loved it. And so even when I was now well, I kept saying to them, you know, I think I'm quite fine where I am. I'm enjoying it.
You can do it. Continue.
Yeah, continue, you know. So literally it was a lovely changeover of roles, you know, because I also happened to turn 60. So, you know, when you turn 60, you need to allow your children to literally take over gently, and you run the relay race together. So for me, it was a nice, gentle
switch.
Switch, which I've been enjoying, and I keep telling them, you know, I did my part, it's your part now. You run. So they take care of everything. I'm taken care of. I live like a queen, and I love it.
And Audley, I think when I'll speak of my friend, if it's me who had died, she would have literally taken over my family. That's in terms of paying fees, feeding them and all. But I didn't do that. I was just there in person for them, which I think I did my part. And it shaped me to make me realize that when you are friends, if someone is gone, it doesn't mean friendship ends there. You'd continue with the friendship in a way that you would be there for your friend if she was there. And it taught me that God gives you extra children to care and love for. And I'm happy I managed to do that. And when my mom died, my mom was a very strong woman. She would take anything. People would call a woman who has got a mean heart. And when she went, I saw my world crumbling, because any little thing that would affect me, I would run to her, and she would have an answer, and she would attend to me. But now it meant all the people who were looking up at her would look up at me, being the firstborn. And I found that very difficult. I tried, but I couldn't fit in her shoes. Even up to now, I can't fit in her shoes. It's something I'm still working on, but I think for the years she's gone now, I think I've failed in a way. And for my siblings, it's unfortunately, they then all died with their husbands and their children, and there was no responsibility for me, for them. So anyway, it has made me a bit stronger. Especially because I can't even handle someone who is sick, more looking after people who are sick. And slowly I'm getting stronger.
All right. Unfortunately, we are out of time, ladies. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us today, and hopefully helping somebody who is trying to find their way back through this journey of bereavement. And I hope that it continues for you in the most positive of ways possible. You have been watching Thriving Heals on Zimpaper's TV network. Today we were talking bereavement, finding the road back home, and we hope that this discussion has kind of helped you if you needed it, and given you a bit of hope, shown you that there is light at the end of your tunnel. You are not surrounded by darkness. You will get through it. My name is Candice Mwakaliele from myself, the crew behind the scenes at ZTN. Be kind to each other, but be kinder still to yourselves. We'll see you next time.